Hey everybody, it's G Marks. I am pleased to have back with me, in certain cases, two great people from Cox Business, sorry, Sarah, and Eric Pace, both executives at Cox. I'd like, first of all, we're going to get into an AI conversation, but before we do that, let's have you guys introduce yourselves and just give a quick background, just so that our viewers can understand who you are and where you're coming from. So, Sarah, I'm going to start with you. Give us the 30-second bio.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Sarah Kim. I lead marketing for Cox Business. And prior to being with Cox, I was actually grown up through the IT industry. So before Cox, I worked at Microsoft and IBM and most recently SAP for 18 years. But it's been a great journey with Cox Business. And you'll hear a little bit about the AI transformation journey that we've been on.
That is great. And Sarah, where do you work out of?
I work out of Atlanta, Georgia.
Got it. Okay, very cool. All right, Eric, your turn. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. I'm Eric Pace. I'm the head of AI here at Cox Communications and Cox Business. Before Cox, I've been here for about 7 years, 7.5 years. And before that, I worked in big consulting pretty much my whole life. Lived a very no, I don't like that. We're going to start that over. Before Cox, I worked in big consulting and did pretty much everything that they go to market with, which helped me translate a lot of the skills and capabilities that I have to what is ultimately now applying to everything, which is AI.
Beautiful. All right. So both of you, first of all, thank you for joining me. And for those of you that are watching, this is really all in support of my new book that I'm doing in partnership with Cox Business. It's called the AI Business Playbook. And if you go to cox.com, cox.com/AI-playbook, you can download it for free. Time is running out to do that, so do it right away. In the meantime, let's talk a little bit about AI with both of you. So before we get into some of the advice that you have about implementing AI, I'm going to start with you, Eric. Talk to us a little bit about how AI is right now being used inside of Cox Business. And then Sarah, I'm going to turn to you and say, how are you using it on the marketing side? So let's start with you, Eric.
Yeah, I think you're going to hear a bit of almost the same story from both of us, but maybe from different perspectives. One of the things that Sarah and I have learned is that there really is no AI department that's going to hand a bunch of stuff over to a function. In particular, in this case, Sarah and the marketing team, it's something that we all have to come together on and produce as a unit. We are in lockstep, the entire way, and everything that Sarah does from a leadership perspective is very complementary to the things that we are doing from an AI perspective. And in many cases, we're co-contributing to the things that we are creating, which has also created a pile of momentum that ultimately has become somewhat hard to stop around here. And so whether it's enabling a lot of her team relative to citizen development, because we need to have almost like a bimodal focus. There's enterprise capabilities that we will build that we need to have some perspective on around how institutional they become, how extensible they become, what systems we integrate to, et cetera. But at the same time, there's all of the application of tacit knowledge and all of the application of the things that go make Cox Business run every day that have to be built into these systems as well. And those things all come together in a single platform to make this magic happen. And what you'll find over the course of the conversation, I think, is that the things that we talk about we're doing in Cox Business are now literally being all brought together so that they can operate in harmony with us just watching them happen almost in an audit function. And then, of course, I like to say we have our little red button with a plastic cover on it in case things get out of hand. We will always, be able to stop the thing. But the fact that the people are all coming together from a COE and a functional perspective to co-create is where we believe we have created magic that many others haven't figured out yet.
And Sarah, I'm going to get you in just a second, but Erica, it's just by coincidence. Earlier today, I just interviewed, a guy named, his name is Beaumont Vance, and he is your job at Paychex Corporation, the big HR and payroll company or whatever. And the things that you're saying, he was saying, because I was asking, saying how are you guys implementing? It's a S&P 500 company. So how are you guys doing it internally? He talked about having sort of the single platform, and they are, this is not proprietary. They're moving everything into one big large language model so that all their employees from sales and marketing to customer service, whatever, can access and prompt and query like they were doing it with like a glorified chat GPT. And so Eric, the question for you is, is that what you mean by like the sort of the single platform? Are you guys moving in a similar direction?
Almost, I would say the nuance there is we've got a very, and I'm going to use, at least they're $3 words to me, Gene, but a very heterogeneous architecture
Okay.
here, because we're taking the approach in which we get the best out of all parts of the platform that we need relative to the thing we're trying to do. The platform that we have chosen to build or co-create within for Sarah's team is a combination of some of those citizen development platforms, meaning we have agent builders, we have a few of those that we use when we need, and we have AWS that we're extending to really take the scale that we need to the places we need it. But in between, what has emerged as the most important part of this platform is really just a knowledge base that looks like a bunch of plain text markdown files that represent the functional, technical, and tacit knowledge that we need for the AI to go execute in conjunction with us. So if
Mm,
you want to be on the same page with what the LLMs are doing, we have to create a common language for all of us to work from. It
right.
doesn't matter within what agents we put what LLMs, as long as that knowledge base or that knowledge layer is consistent and managed by both my team and Sarah's, then we can almost have the AI do anything we want, and it'll operate consistently with what Sarah's team already does.
All right, that is perfect. Sarah, now your turn. So, you've got Eric that's like building this out. He's dealing with the entire company, obviously. You're on the marketing side. So, how has this impacted your life? And I think it's changed since we last spoke a few months ago.
Yeah, yeah, no, certainly. And the pace of AI is very fast
The
and things
pace.
change all
Oh
the
yeah.
time. No, it's very, very well done. Well, first, before, what's changed, everything has changed, right? And before we go into the what, I actually want to spend a minute on the why
Hmm.
and why are we doing this, right? And from a marketing perspective, we realized that we had to completely change how we go to market, right? And how a company goes to market, it is not by a single function alone, right? So when we looked at what we want to do with AI, we didn't just look at what do we have to do with AI from a marketing perspective. We also looked at what do we need to do from a sales perspective? What do we need to do from a strategy and planning? And we looked at the end-to-end workflows across the different functions, right? Because we knew that was the only way that we could completely change how we go to market and truly capture the goodness of AI, right? Because I think a lot of times companies are looking at, you know, improving certain tasks, improving, individual functional roles. And you
Hmm.
can't out of AI by taking that approach. You really have to look at things end to end. You have to kind of, look beyond your own little kingdoms and, reach out to other folks. And, I think the magic that Eric's team has built is they've built us that foundation to build upon, right? To really look cross-functionally. If that foundation wasn't there, we wouldn't be able to, take the big swing that we did with completely reinventing how we go to market.
That is great. Can you, I mean, Sarah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, can you just give us like just like a specific use case of how you're using this on the marketing side? Like, is there anything, specific you want to share?
Yeah, certainly. So where we started is we started with a common data set and common
Mhm.
insight on our customers, right? And how we're pulling from that and using that is from a marketing perspective. We're actually creating personalized content that speaks to individual customers' need, very much at the segment and industry level. And then building upon that, we've enabled our sales team to actually pull from the same insights and actually do account research and also create account pursuit plans that are very much in alignment with the spirit of the insights that we had from the customers from the first place. And normally these things would happen completely separately, and sometimes even with separate data sources, separate insights on customers, but we're all building from the same knowledge base and, executing in our channels, but in a more coordinated fashion, in a much faster fashion as well, too. And I think that's the beauty of AI is it gives us the capabilities to capture signals in real time versus having to go through a very, very manual process.
It's fascinating too. I mean, like I'm in the CRM world, and in the CRM world, there's a database and there's fields, and it's like, oh, okay, we want to reach out to everybody with blue eyes and green hair who's a Braves fan, you know what I mean, or what, whatever, and like that all just seems to be like going away because now, AI people like Eric, for example, we're now connecting a bunch of data from a bunch of different places. And that's emails and then files and documents, CRM systems, ERP system, wherever the data is. And then people like yourself on the marketing side, Sarah, can then say, okay, let's prompt this data for this type of, customer that we're looking for, or people that are having this kind of an issue or this kind of a need, and it's drawing from a bunch of different places, and the interaction that you're having with it is it's like a chat GPT interaction, right? I mean, it's not like you have to be like some database guru to do a special query and filter and sort and whatever. Like it's just right. I mean, that seems like we're heading, which seems like it's just from a marketing side, Sarah, that's just going to give you so much more capability to know your customers, right?
And I think the magic too, and what the capabilities that Eric's team has given us too, is being able to take unstructured data and actually get insight out of it as well too. So we can take transcripts from calls that salespeople have had with customers, or the customer service calls that come in from the operation side, and get much deeper insights than we would have had before. And they're actually in real time as well too, which is key, is to be able to see the sentiment, understand what you need to do with it, and then act on it quickly.
I
But
love that. And Eric, yeah, go ahead, because I was going to ask you another question, but keep going.
yeah, I was going to say, like, double down on the thing that you said before. Very indicative, and I'm almost elated to see that there's recognition of the need to support that modality that you just described. There are certain things that are in the CRM system that you need, but you can't go execute your job. Sarah can't do her job with only the CRM system.
Yes,
So
right.
what's happening now is as that recognition is manifesting itself in the market, when companies like Salesforce are saying, we see what's happening, guys, and we're going to support this journey, we'll now offer our Salesforce solution completely headless. You
Yeah,
don't need the UI anymore. You can come in and out via MCP, via API, via
yeah.
whatever agent way you want. And then all it takes in order to go round out that whole system relative to some of that, I think you call it database guru stuff. There, some sauce in there that's important. But yesterday, Sarah and I were talking with other leaders here at Cox, and it's clear that the strategy that she's driving is not saying, "Hey, IT, I need you to give me a bunch of engineers that can learn marketing." She's saying, "Hey, IT, I am dependent on you for a bunch of really important things, but I'm going to go take my marketers and I'm
Mm.
going to make marketing engineers. All they need is 10% more knowledge than they have today around how to just be a light engineer so they can go help create and craft the solutions in marketing that will help propel them forward on top of the foundation that we put together." It's incredibly important to have that mindset as you go through this journey.
Sarah, you going to say something?
Yeah, no, I was gonna build on that, right? And going into
Mhm.
this from the IT world and coming from very large organizations, I've led a lot of transformation projects around IT platforms, right? We probably changed our CRM and marketing automation platforms 3 times at my former
Yeah.
company. But this is so unlike any IT or transformation project that I've ever done. And the biggest difference is with IT projects, really the requirements gathering comes first, and then you get the product, and then the transformation happens. Well, this is completely opposite,
Mm.
right? The transformation actually has to happen first,
Mm.
right? What we did is we started by empowering our people, right? And giving them the power and, versing them on AI. And we started there. And then we started gathering the requirements because once they understood, how AI functioned, how it thought, what the jagged edges were, then they were able to give very smart requirements that could actually be done. Right. And then actually, when it comes to the requirements process, it's not, hey, let's develop our requirements and throw them over the fence. It was actually Eric and I's team, like literally sit side by side as one team going through the day to day, right? And really, and the requirements gathering isn't a one time over the fence. It is a constant back and forth. It's like, agile on steroids. And it's always constant trade offs, it's always constant decisions that have to be made, and they do them together. As well. So, and I think that's the biggest change is an IT transformation project, but completely opposite.
Yep, I agree.
Eric, Sarah's big Achilles heel is her data. I mean, like, she can't run campaigns and reach out to customers and prospects if it's bad data. I mean, that's kind of catastrophic. And a lot of my clients and readers are concerned about that because they know that their data ain't so great, to begin with. Um, and this question for you, Eric, is that a year up until recently, I was saying like you got to clean up your data, you got to clean up your data. It's very very important. Blah blah blah. And then I was like ran this panel discussion with some other AI people, and they were alluding to the fact that like the data issue is becoming less and less of an issue because AI is getting smarter and smarter to figure out what's right and what's not. And I'm just kind of curious, Eric, if you've Do you agree with that? Do you have any comments on that? We got to get to your principles, by the way, guys. So I know,
Yeah,
but I'm just curious to your
yeah.
thoughts on it.
Let's see if I can do this in non-traditional Eric way, right? Which means I'm gonna shorten the hook. But I do think, Gene, that AI is starting to be applied in places that data quality issues exist. How that's going to solve all of your lineage problems is still a TBD, meaning you can't just unleash AI on the landscape of enterprise data you have and hit the magic cleanup button. It doesn't
Right,
work.
right.
But I think the way we've approached things, generally speaking, at Cox with our strategy is for every use case that we want to go apply, we do two things. We say we'd like to productize this use case. That way we can control the amount of data necessary and therefore the quality of it, do some cleanup either before or on the fly as we go. And then we choose products that can be implemented in proximity with one another. So you get this 1 + 1 = 3 output, right? You take two products that are each worth one, and when they operate next to each other in the flow or in a process or in a workflow, et cetera, the combination or the combinatory effect of those things is a value of 3. An example of where we have applied some, I'll call it AI to do data enrichment. I mean, think about a traditional marketing problem where you're buying a bunch of leads from third-party sources, you're trying to navigate the prospect universe, and a lot of that data is not great.
Tell me
It's
about
not
it.
helpful to marketing, it's not helpful to sales. Well, we take those data feeds now and we run them through a set of AI agents that goes and does ancillary research to do lead validation and enrichment. And I don't know the exact numbers. I think Sarah can help me if I need to, but we've taken our quality of leads from 30% accuracy to something like 70 or 80 or
Yeah.
90%.
It's actually 18% to
Okay.
97.
18. So
Wow.
there you
I mean,
go.
that's
So
by the way,
so
that's exactly what these people on the panel were telling me. Very similar stuff that, like if Sarah's going to do a campaign, before anything happens, if your AI application is doing what you need it to do, it's enriching that data and validating that data. You know what I mean? If that person is no longer working at that company that you're reaching out to, your hopefully your AI application is smart enough to figure that out first by validating it with external sources. And that's great. That's great news because that's another big issue. Okay. Um, we wanted to give some advice to our viewers here about implementing AI. Mark Cuban, who him and I were just emailing each other because I'm going to be interviewing him shortly, and he has famously said over the past few weeks about how there's 34 million small businesses out there, and all of them need AI answers, and they don't know where to go, and it's a huge opportunity, for a lot of people. But what's even more important is that we get some advice from people. I hope we've established the fact for everybody that's watching that Cox is a big company. We've got the person in charge of AI and what he's doing to implement this company wide. It's like a big deal. We've got the person in charge of marketing at Cox Business. That's how she's using AI. So this is a big deal. So you guys have learned some things, and I'm sure that you've got some advice for business owners and business people, smaller companies that are watching. Sarah, you alluded to this earlier about flipping around the process, that it's no longer like a typical IT project. So I was, we have a listing we all agreed of in advance. There were like sort of four things that companies get wrong about AI, or four guiding principles about AI. One is that it's not an IT. This is not an IT project. So Sarah, let me give you the floor again to expand on that. What do we mean by it not being an IT project?
Yeah, and I think I hit on most of the points already. It's a mindset shift, right?
Okay.
It is we get a product, we throw requirements over the fence. It is very much, it starts with the business. It starts with the business understanding to some degree the AI technology. Then it goes into a very deep partnership, right, with your AI teams. It's being able to articulate what are the requirements, but it's much more intimate and it's much more detailed than any requirements process that I've ever experienced before. And it also happens in real time as well too, because as you go through and as you start testing things, as you stand up proven concepts, you will see things that will not work immediately, and you immediately have to shift and change directions. And if the business team and the AI team are not in lockstep, things can veer away from each other very quickly, right? And so there is, an extreme degree of alignment between the teams that is not present with the typical IT project. And I think finally, and I impress this upon my teams as well too, is, I told them that they are just as responsible for the success of the AI products as Eric's team is. We
yeah.
own it just as much as they do. And if the product is not successful, it's because we haven't been clear on our requirements, we haven't prioritized correctly, or at the end of the day, we're not even using it, right? Because in order for corporations to get value out of AI, they have to use it as well. You put all this work into building a product, doing the proof of concept. At the end of the day, if you don't use it and get the scale, you're never going to get the value, and the responsibility falls on the business.
Gene, don't let Sarah sell herself short. There is a requirement for leadership poise to make this successful. It's one thing to make sure that literacy is in place and that your teams understand how to define the right type of problems that AI can solve. But without leadership leaning in and providing a space where people can learn, can fail, can try, can win, can succeed together, it's also never going to happen. And I have a lot of business partners here that are all interested. What I'm lucky enough in Sarah to have is someone who is overly invested in the mutual success of what we're trying to do. And she has a willingness to go push the envelope on the things that we are trying right now. And because of the foundations that we've built and Sarah's willingness and her team's willingness, and she's leading them through this to also go explore, what they are realizing is that the things that we are doing are creating scaled value and they're not explicitly eliminating jobs.
Right.
The people's jobs that are in this flow are changing. The dynamics of the operating model and the design of the org are changing. They will change for every department in every company that is going to adopt these things. The orgs are going to flatten, the job requirements are going to change. And right now we're identifying some things that are going to, they're going to emerge as things that we hadn't contemplated before relative to the things Sarah's organization needs to do, that my organization needs to do. But those are things that can replace some of the task-based things that are no longer happening in the flow. And the people on Sarah's team are leaning in and saying, "Oh yes, we're excited about watching this thing go. We'll pick those things up. Let's go together."
Right. Sarah, are your employees, do they have concerns about their jobs because of, because of AI? I mean, it terrifies a lot of people. And I just want to say that I don't have any clients that are getting rid of employees anytime soon. I mean, we don't, it's like you guys probably don't have enough people on your team right now to do what you want to do, right? I mean, tell me, like, what are your thoughts on jobs in AI?
So I think the concerns are just around just the notion of change, right?
Yes.
Because the most disconcerting thing for humans and the hardest thing for us to do as well too. And that kind of goes to another principle that we've talked about as well too, is I think that most companies start with, hey, I've got to enable my teams on AI. And we actually did not start with enablement. Actually, what we started with is one, creating purpose in people, right? And so when I talk about the why is, hey, the why was we have to change how we go to market. We have to be
Right.
competitive. We have to create a new go-to-market engine. That was thing one. Thing two is, hey, personally, this is your opportunity to take control of your own career, right? You can control your own destiny. And that actually, I think, is, you know, a very broad concern across any industry in any job right now, because there's so much economic uncertainty. There's so much change in every single industry. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It's tough and people are getting laid off. And it's like, hey, look, AI is an opportunity for you to take charge and to lead yourself and lead your career. And the third is, it's exciting because, hey, get on the future train, right? This is the future. You're creating the future. Be a part of that, right? So that's the first thing we spent a lot of time, myself and my leaders, is creating just this purpose in people and getting them excited. Then, after that, then we start building proficiency with the enablement part, right? But what we saw come out of that is something, I think the most exciting thing, the final thing that we saw is people that are truly passionate
Yeah.
about it. And without those first two steps is you can't have passionate people. And so, the folks in my organization that works with Eric's team, they are so passionate about AI.
Yes.
There is no difference between his team and my team. We're all fully vested, fully bought in. And they would say this is the most exciting part of their job. Like the marketing stuff is fun, but this is really what lights them up. And that's really exciting to see.
And Gene, let me
go ahead, Eric.
let me give you a quick side, because I tell this story often, especially as of late, when you run into some of the, I'll call it just the FUD associated with what's going on. I heard this on stage the other day at a conference we were at in San Francisco, and I did a little bit of research. If you take into account the fact that software engineering is the single most quote unquote impacted job from AI today, just because of what AI's capabilities are, and then you go do the research, there are more job postings in the United States today for software engineers than there were pre-COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. Tells you something.
So there you go.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because when I speak on AI, I have this slide because again, everybody's terrified about their jobs. I have a slide and I could have 5 slides, but there's like 40 jobs on there, job titles that didn't exist 20 years ago. I
Right.
mean, wellness officer, you know what I mean? Cannabis compliance officer. I mean, who ever heard of that?
I
Right?
don't
That's
know.
I know. I mean, there's all sorts of like different jobs that people just didn't have. And I don't know, maybe I'm just naive, but I feel like human beings have always. I'm a CPA, so the tax code was like 10 pages when it was first released in the 1900s, and now it's like a million. So I don't, I feel like people will evolve, and AI will be doing things that we shouldn't be doing anyway. I mean, it'll give us the opportunity to reach other opportunities. The other thing I just wanted to also just comment on, and I forget, maybe Sarah was you that said that, is about the it's a partnership. It's not a handoff. It's not an IT project, but we are involving IT. I just, and maybe because Sarah, you mentioned it, but I'm going to go back to you, Eric, on that same question. Like, is that any different than what it's always been? I mean, like, if like IT is going to implement a system, say a CRM system for the marketing department, just for argument's sake, you guys get Salesforce or whatever. That's a partnership, right? I mean, I don't know if that's really changed. Like, wouldn't the IT group be working closely with the marketing group to implement the CRM system? So is it just because it's now AI that it's any different than what it should always be? It should always be a partnership. That question for you, Eric. I don't know if you want to
Yeah,
put that over.
I think it's evident in the way things are being created in this new world. So
Right,
past, when you had even an agile team put together, the typical interface for the IT team to the business team is going to be someone in a product owner role that's going to make sure that they understand the process landscape, the requirements. They're going to translate that into some backlog, product definition, use case or user story, inventory, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Today, the product owner role is evolving
Mhm.
into product manager and engineer all at the same time. And in a lot of cases, the people in the business on Sarah's team are in the co-creation process. They're building the applications with us. And I don't mean they're sitting next to us handing us requirements. They're actually prompting their way through a spec-driven approach to developing these things. They're contributing to the process. And ultimately, what we're seeing happen is at a large scale, when this spills out to broader IT programs and projects, the traditional engineers' stress levels are dropping precipitously because their stress levels are ultimately tied to a cost of failure. And the cost of failure is now so low because when issues emerge, when something happens, the AI is fixing it, the product manager or the product
Right.
owner or the business people are in there fixing it, and the engineers are focused on engineering things. And
Got it.
so all of that is changing in Sarah's team and I team. When we say we're sitting together, we are like in the thing together
Yeah.
and doing the same things together.
So I was
Okay.
trying to think of an analogy as you were talking, as you were asking the question, and I kept getting this picture of, is the difference between building a house or raising a puppy
Oh,
together, right? Like a house, it's like very defined. It's very, this is your job, this is your job.
It's a great
Now we have
analogy.
blueprints, here you go. But raising a puppy is like, oh my gosh, like you're on the fly, you're in it together, you're like picking up like stuff out. I mean, and so that's the best analogy
I
that
have,
came to my head.
I have,
I love that.
we have two puppies at home right now, and I
Yeah.
can't tell you, like, everybody's in the village.
Yes.
Like,
We had 4 things that companies get wrong, 4 sort of principles. We haven't talked about the fourth, which I'm going to bring up, but I just wanted to clarify one of them. We did say this is not an IT project, so we should all realize that it's not an IT project. Number 2 is it's a partnership between groups. You know what I mean? Like we're partnering not only with IT group, the group that's using it, and also the IT system, the AI system itself. So I get that. One of the guiding principles also was like don't start with enablement. We don't want to like enable employees. Just to clarify that, Sarah. So, and I apologize because maybe it was just me like not absorbing the point of that. Like if we're not, say you're going to your employees, your people in your group, and we're gonna implement AI so we can be that much better. We're not we're not enabling you. What are we doing? Like what are we doing with our employees?
Okay, so I'm gonna back up a little
Yeah.
bit. And one of the things that people ask me is like, hey, what does it take to do this? Right. So I'm gonna start there. What does it take to have a successful AI project, to do a successful transformation? And I
Right.
will say first thing that it takes is number one is bravery, and number two is fortitude. right? Those are the two most important things. And so when you talk about enablement, right, there is no emotion in that at all, right? It is very cerebral. It is very, hey, it's like a school project, like I learned this. But in order to make this successful, it requires people to profoundly change everything. It makes you change how you think. It makes you change how you work. It makes you change what you value of yourself as an employee. It makes you change how you interact with other functions
I
across
got
business.
it. I got it.
It
Yep.
has to be rooted in purpose. It has to be rooted in a deep emotional commitment. Only then can you then start enabling them.
I
I
agree.
love it. So we're not starting with enablement. We are starting with a clean slate, basically, is what we're
Mhm.
starting with. This is all about change, both for the good for the company and good for the employee. Okay. The last thing, which I definitely want some comment on, is you both say don't optimize. So what do we mean by that? Who wants to take that one?
You can. I still, I mean, I think you will, you have to, this goes back to, I think, what we've been talking about for a long time, at least my perspective on the optimization comment, and it lands in part of our strategy that I was talking about when we go do product-based AI development. The thing that nobody seems to get right is that they have an expectation that AI is going to be perfect, and they'll optimize themselves to death going nowhere, right? You have to understand what your expectations are going in, and understand that the AI is going to produce maybe at or better, but not perfection relative to
Mm,
what humans can do today. And
mhm.
so if 80% accuracy, I think you're doing a great job. If you get to 90, I think you're lucky. And if you spend your time trying to get from 90 to 100, you'll probably die trying to find whatever you're looking for. And so
Right.
where we said we're going to build product, most of the things that we build are product defined to start. They will take less than 3 months to build, and we have accuracy and or quality expectations of the thing before we start. Those are things that Sarah's team and my team come together on before we embark on our less than 3 month journey. And then typically speaking, what I would say is don't go take whatever you deliver in V1 of that product and then continue to enhance it or optimize it over the course of time, because most of the things that you enhance or optimize are not producing material value changes to the original thing that you built. You're actually suffering from the opportunity cost of not going to build another product that will deliver as much value as the first one. You're just saying, change these colors, change these, knobs, tweak this, tweak that, do this, and it's not doing anything.
Yep.
Now, in cases, we have said, if we want to go to V2 of a product because we feel like there's material step function change value in V2 versus V1, okay, let's go do it, but let's go redefine what V2 is, just like we did V1. And there are things that we are working on that are going into V2s or on their way to V2s because we learned so much in the V1 effort, but that also didn't stop us from prioritizing new products in the portfolio that are also going to add parallel value while we go to V2 of some of these things. So that's where I would start with the optimization lens.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Sarah, anything to add to that?
No, that's very well said, right?
Mm,
Because the products we have today are going to look nothing like the products that we have tomorrow. But
right.
also, too, I think that, going back to my comment of it takes bravery to do something like
Yeah.
this, is if you're just looking for point solutions, if you're just looking to incrementally make things better, AI can do some of that, but that's not the true value, and that's not how you unlock the true value. You really have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and be willing to create a little chaos and,
Yes.
and like deconstruct everything
Mm.
to get the most value. And I think one of the things that Eric's team has done a great job of is what are those big levers of value that you get across different workflows, and how do you measure that versus trying to kill yourself measuring every little widget and thing,
Yep.
Got
right?
it.
And
In other
a
words,
much
take the win, right? Take the win.
And Gene, here's a like I love to make it tangible for anybody listening.
Yeah.
And so here's a part of a conversation we had today. So one of the things that we just went through in terms of the AI products that Sarah just laid out relative to what we've done in marketing includes this concept of what every marketer does, which is go through brief strategy, brief creation, brief execution. And we've built a V1 product that gets those things done and is delivering value. And instead of figuring out how to go optimize that thing to death, the conversation, which required fortitude, bravery, and all of the
Mm,
things that Sarah said, because a lot of people just poured a lot of emotion into this thing for a couple of months. Today the conversation was, maybe we should take a step back and kill the whole brief thing. Maybe the brief is dead in marketing, and maybe we should start talking about collaboration boards that don't require briefs anymore at all. We
Right.
can go build those things very easily. Let's take a different swing at this process and see if we can change the value trajectory and the entire economic profile of the process that we're operating by just rethinking the way things in marketing are happening. No more brief, collaboration board. Let's go build a new tool or a new app or a new thing.
Yeah. And I think too, the team being involved, invested in that is going to help with the change management process because they're actually seeing this themselves as well too, is hey, maybe we don't have to do it this way. But at the same time as I mean, we push pretty hard when it comes to
Yeah.
innovation and driving change and creating a little chaos and all that. I
Yes.
think that's probably why we get along and are able to do all the things. But the thing too is, when you have a large company like Cox, it's hard to move the elephant very quickly. And so I think we found a really good balance of pushing the envelope with some workflows, but then maintaining and helping status quo at the same time, right? So for example, this brief process will continue as we create the next thing and then they can come together,
Yes.
right? So I think that's also, if companies are struggling with, how do I implement AI? Another way to do is have maybe a sidecar accelerator that you try different things and you create things and, move the rest along once you prove them.
I think Sarah just softened the whole surprise that I just gave to her team that we're killing the brief process.
Well, guys, this has been great. Everybody, if you're thinking of implementing an AI project inside of your company, we've been talking to Sarah and Eric about their experiences doing that, and they've shared with us their four guiding principles, which is, this is not an IT project, so you don't even consider it that way. It's a partnership that's going to be with various parts of your company, not just an IT thing or just an IT and marketing thing. Different people will be involved, including your AI platform. You want to avoid optimizing an AI solution. I mean, as long as you get it to where you want to get it, there's no reason to continue to tweak it and tweak it and tweak it, because there'll be always better things that you can do and better use of your time. And don't start with enablement. You're not enabling your employees. You're almost wiping the slate clean and creating something brand new that's going to change their lives and their jobs, which is really a good thing. There is a fifth thing, according to Sarah. You need to have bravery and fortitude, okay? When you're going into any AI project, it's very, very important. Sarah Kim, Eric Pace, thank you guys both very much for joining me. It was a lot of fun talking with you, and I certainly learned a lot. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gene.
Everybody, my name is Gene Marks, and if you are interested in downloading my book in association with Cox Business, it's called the AI Business Playbook. Go to cox.com, cox.com/AI dash playbook. Get it now before we take it away and start selling it on Amazon. It's your chance to get a free copy. So go to that site and you can get yours, and it will help you with some of the principles that we've just spoken about today to implement AI in your business. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this and walked away with good information. I'm sure we'll see you again soon in the future. Take care.